This video will help you understand a single mutation in the MUTYH gene and how it may affect you or your family. Your genes contain the instructions that make your body work. Every cell of your body has the same set of genes. You have 2 copies of each gene, one from your mother and one from your father. You have some genes called tumor suppressor genes that protect you from getting cancer. A gene mutation is damage to a gene. A mutation in a gene may change its instructions and cause it to stop working normally. Gene mutations in normal cells are usually inherited or passed down from parents to children. This means that family members such as parents, siblings, and children sometimes have the same gene mutation. These mutations can also develop by chance before a person is born. If a mutation happens in one of your tumor suppressor genes, you may be more likely to get cancer. Genetic testing is used to look for mutations in your genes. Here at MSK, we use 2 types of genetic testing. One type looks at the genes in the tumor cells, and the other type looks at the genes in your normal cells. When we look for gene mutations in the tumor cells, we use tumor tissue from a previous surgery or biopsy. This type of testing helps us to learn about the genes in the tumor. It also lets us look for mutations that may be good targets for treatment. When we look for gene mutations in your normal cells, we usually use a sample of your blood. This type of testing helps us to learn more about your risk of developing certain cancers. You or one of your family members has had genetic testing that found a single genetic mutation in the MUTYH gene. This means that a mutation is present in one of the 2 copies of the MUTYH gene, either in the copy from the mother or the copy from the father. The MUTYH gene normally helps protect against colorectal cancer. Having a single MUTYH mutation slightly increases the risk of developing colorectal cancer during your lifetime. We will now discuss what's known about the cancer risks associated with a single MUTYH gene mutation. Some genetic mutations are rare and are associated with a very high risk of cancer. For example, mutations in the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes are rare but are associated with a very high risk for breast cancer. Other genetic mutations are more common but don't increase your risk for cancer very much. A single MUTYH gene mutation falls into this category. A single MUTYH mutation is a relatively common mutation found in about 1 to 2% of people with Northern European ancestry. It has also been seen, but less often, in people of non-Northern European ancestry. Unlike some other cancer risk genes, the MUTYH gene is a recessive gene. This means that both copies of a person's MUTYH gene have to have a mutation for the person to have a disease. When both copies of the MUTYH gene have a mutation, that person has a condition called MYH-associated polyposis, MAP. People with MAP have many colorectal polyps or growths in their colon and rectum and have a high risk of developing colorectal cancer. They need special screening. When only one copy of the MUTYH gene has a mutation, the other, non-mutated copy still functions normally. A person who has a single mutation in a recessive gene is called a carrier and has a much lower risk of developing colorectal cancer than someone who has 2 mutations. Now, let's talk about how different things affect your risk of getting colorectal cancer during your lifetime. We'll use percentages to talk about risk. In this video, percent means the number of people in every 100 people who may be affected. For example, 30% means 30 out of 100 people. In the United States, the chance that an average person will develop colorectal cancer in their lifetime is 5%. People with 2 MUTYH mutations are at a much higher risk for colorectal cancer. They have between a 40 and 100% chance of developing colorectal cancer during their lifetime. People with a single MUTYH mutation have just a very slightly increased risk of developing colorectal cancer. They have a 6% chance. For comparison, people who have a parent or sibling with colorectal cancer have about a 10% chance of developing colorectal cancer during their lifetime. Right now, there aren't any standard medical guidelines for people with a single MUTYH mutation. We recommend that people with a single MUTYH mutation follow the general population colorectal cancer screening guidelines, including an initial colonoscopy around your 50th birthday and follow-up colonoscopies every 10 years after that. If you have a personal or family history of polyps or colorectal cancer, your doctor may recommend a different screening plan. Be sure to follow the plan that you discuss with your doctor and keep in contact with their office to learn about updates that may be important. Now that we've talked about what you should do if you have a single MUTYH mutation, let's talk about what your family should do. If you have a single MUTYH mutation, your children, siblings, and parents have a 50% or 1 in 2 chance of also having the same mutation. There is also a possible but small chance of children in your family inheriting 2 MUTYH mutations and the high-risk MAP condition. We will discuss this more shortly. There are no standard guidelines for genetic testing for your family members because the cancer risk associated with a single MUTYH mutation is not high. Whether or not your family members decide to have genetic testing, they should follow the general population colorectal cancer screening guidelines or their doctor's instructions. Because single MUTYH mutations are a relatively common gene mutation, it's possible for a person in your family who carries the mutation to have children with a person who also has a single MUTYH mutation. In this case, their children may have the high-risk MAP condition where both copies of the MUTYH gene are mutated, even though no one else in your family has had the high-risk condition before. For example, in this family, the male partner has a single MUTYH mutation. The female partner then had genetic testing and was also found to have a single MUTYH mutation. Their children have a 25% chance, 1 in 4, of having 2 MUTYH mutations and therefore the high-risk MAP condition. The children also have a 25% chance of having no MUTYH mutations and a 50% chance of having a single MUTYH mutation. If you have children or are thinking about having children in the future, your partner may want to discuss genetic testing with a doctor or genetic counselor to determine the risk for the children to be affected. We encourage you and your family members to keep in contact with our office every few years to learn about updates that may be important. If you have any other questions or concerns, call your doctor or MSK Clinical Genetics at 646-888-4050.